For now, we'll have more in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. For our lowest car insurance price guaranteed, go online to the aa.ie.
The last of the rain will clear for a dry night with some mist possible. Chilly for the moment, with temperatures dropping to about 10 degrees tonight. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. We love the beautiful game more than Olivier Giroud loves the near post. Gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Oh.
Inter 1-0 up against Getafe. That is a single-legged affair in the Europa League this evening. Manchester United 0-0 at half-time against LASK. 5-0 up, though, on aggregate, so that is just dandy. Meanwhile, the music means Pat Nevin's with us. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing, Joe? You okay?
Very well, very well. I mean, I haven't been swanning around on holiday, relaxed, tanned, rested, but I'm okay.
Yeah, I have to say I have been slightly rested. It's one of those odd ones. You kind of have to really want to go on holiday because, you know, is there any danger in it? Not for yourself, but for anyone else. But we went to Greek island and it's probably, there's less COVID there than anywhere else. And of course, Scotland's not had any real problems, particularly where I am as well. And we had a really nice, quiet, weird time on holiday. Right. Do you know what's the weirdest thing? I actually covered the FA Cup final from Greece. And it just shows you how different things are now. You know, because I was doing it for Just TV on this occasion. And I had to go and find a hotel somewhere that had a good internet. And I had to set up my different screens, you know, because you need a stream screen, you need a Zoom screen, and you're thinking, this isn't a hotel on an island in the middle of nowhere in the Greek, the Aegean Sea. It's just as good as anywhere else these days to actually go and do the game because you can't actually get to some of the games. I'm still getting to quite a few of the games at the moment, but that one, it was like hen's teeth trying to get into that one. Tickets for that one or availability for that one were very, very difficult for even like the Chelsea TV or 5 Live sometimes were as well. So, but it was interesting, an interesting game. I'm saying interesting because I'm not taking control of the show, right? But I was furious during that game.
Okay.
I was absolutely furious, right? So let me go on this because I get annoyed about it, right? I've been going to see quite a few games since the lockdown, right? And a couple of things noticeable when you're at the games. When you're at the games, you don't hear, there's no crowd noises, so you hear the shouting, right? We all know that. Fine, used to it, normal as a former footballer, you've done all that. What I hadn't realised, and it's really, really annoyed me, is the squealing. And I can only call it squealing. And it's when someone gets injured, goes down, and the cry and the squeal that you hear. And I'm thinking, I want to phone for an air ambulance. That guy's in mega trouble. And then I think, but I didn't think he got hurt, you know. And then you look down at the screen, you realise you weren't touched. And it's actually horrifying what's happening now. This did not used to happen in the game before. Now, feigning injury, bad enough, and you know it's my bugbear, and it's a lot of people's bugbear, and especially when you talk to a lot of people who are kind of more modern, just out of the game, or currently still playing the game, and they say, oh, it's just part of the game, and you're thinking, honestly? You know, screaming and squealing like a little baby when you aren't actually hurt. And when you're at these games now, you're really hearing it, and it's a lot. And I heard that quite a bit during that FA Cup final. And it drove me nuts. It drove me absolutely nuts. And for, you know, people not to now say and accept it and just say, oh, it's part of the game. And I'm gone now. I've had enough of it. There was a moment with Xhaka.
You're officially into old man territory now when it comes to the game.
Is it? I don't think it is.
No, it's not. You're dead right. I would feel it's so a part of the game now. It's about 20 years old. That squealing. And it gets picked up even with a crowd occasionally on the microphones around the pitch, and you hear it. But obviously it's more apparent when there's no crowd there. But I feel like that's been around minimum 20 years.
With the regularity that it's happening. Squealing, but if you've got a hit, then make it sound worse. I've heard that.
Yeah.
But when there's no touch at all, and it's horrendous, I mean, and there's not a scintilla of embarrassment about it. And do you know what the annoying thing, one of the many annoying things about it is, if you ever dig them up or call them out about it, the managers get furious. They go mental. They say, how dare you call up? Well, I dare, because you're acting. It's nonsense. It's rubbish. You were not hurt. And it was honest, it's been driving me mad a bit, and I've been trying to hold it in, because as you say, it sounds a bit old manish. But 5'6", played in the game when it was a hell of a lot harder, the physical challenges it used to take than you have to put up with now. And we did the opposite, a lot of us, most of us. And the other thing that gets to me, not everybody does it. Right, so it's all right, it's part of the game. I actually don't hear Lionel Messi screaming. I don't see him rolling about. You do get Neymar, but you don't get Messi. There's lots of people in the game you think, well, he wouldn't do it, or he wouldn't do it, but he would. That's just not acceptable, because that's one guy cheating. And if I put one of my other old hats on, as the ex-chairman of the PFA, you're cheating one of my members. You're doing them. And when I particularly watching Kovacic getting sent off, when in actual fact he was probably fouled, but there certainly wasn't any pain there. And for him to suffer that, to get sent off in an FA Cup final, is absolutely horrific. I know you can't look at it in the VAR because it's only a yellow card and a second yellow card, which is an anomaly in itself. But to allow that to happen and the referee to guess that there had been a bad foul and get it wrong, but for the other player to squeal as he did in pretense, I just thought it was the most grotesquely immoral thing. Now, this is, again, underlined, this sounds like me being a Chelsea guy moaning about an Arsenal player. Trust me, there's a lot doing it in all teams, but underline, Arsenal were the better team, and they deserve to win. So it's not that. It's not, it would have been okay if. It's not that. The right team won. It's just, it's driving me nuts now. And we kind of all know the players that are doing it. We really do, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's driving me nuts. And the one that's getting me, at the moment there's one guy that's got my, Ceballos is really riling me at the moment, because I've watched him quite a lot of games now. And the worst thing about it, it's a right good player, and I want to like him. And I can't, because he keeps on doing this. And maybe in another year when he's been in the British game for a while, you get used to the culture of it. But I'll worry the culture's going that direction. It's supposed to come in a direction I'd like to see it coming. Well,
Pat, it sounds like you need a holiday.
I kind of ruined half a day of my holiday. I did half a day. The thing is, no one speaks about it.
Yeah.
Very few people are speaking about it. And I think when you sit back and accept that, then you've lost. See if we all don't sit back and accept it, and then say, right, okay, do you know what? I can fix that in 10 minutes. I will fix it for you. It's that easy. Just say VAR will check it, and if we find out you dived and you weren't touched and you pretend, and it's very clear, then it's a sending off. It's amazing how quickly it'll stop.
Yeah.
Like right away.
I mean,
and that's what you can do.
It's an interesting phenomenon. There's certainly no social pressure within the game to not do it. There's no shame. There's no embarrassment. You suspect, and I hate to compare the sports, and I'm not saying other sports are better than football by any means, you suspect in rugby that would just be laughed at by the other players and would be a source of embarrassment to the offender. Diving hasn't really taken hold in rugby either. In Gaelic games over here, there are exceptions, of course, but diving hasn't really taken hold, and there is that sense of honesty and integrity and toughness, I think, It is interesting the way it has become so enshrined in football culture. There's been diving for a very long time. That's been allowed and, I'm not going to say encouraged, but not discouraged. And why did they never really get to grips with diving? Because actually diving is something that was talked about a lot. I mean, it became kind of boring, people talking about diving.
Do you know, I think it's thin end of the wedge stuff, right? Do you remember in rugby, excuse my ignorance, I'm talking to yourselves who have much more knowledge in other sports than I ever have. But remember the Bloodgate one where they pretended, the rugby player pretended...
it was against Leinster, it was Harlequins, yeah.
Yes. And how shocked we all were at that level of cheating and feigning, and it was in rugby. Now, the annoyance and anger from the entire rugby establishment and fans and their own fans and everyone within it meant that didn't become the norm. That level of open cheating did not become the norm. Now, there is cheating in rugby. You go into a scrum and there's people pulling you down.
100%, yeah, there is.
Exactly. Yeah. It's there. We know that there are types of cheating. You go and look at most sports and there are types of cheating. And so you can't really call football that badly that it's the only one. But generally, they know where the lines are. The lines in football have just been pushed that much further just now. It hurts. Because golf, there's been the odd cheat, but it's rare. Rugby, there's some cheats, but it's rare. And you go through all the sports, and it's rare. But football, it kind of isn't rare anymore. And it's now just accepted. And it's called professionalism or gamesmanship, and it's not. It's cheating.
Do you use the word cheating?
Yeah, I do.
You use the word cheating.
Yeah, I've had a lot of discussions with, again, ex-players who often talk about that, and I use the word cheating. And they say, well, that's not cheating. I said, have a look at a dictionary and look up the word cheating and what it means. It's abusing.
I know. I hear you, because this came up before, actually, in Gaelic games a while back. Yeah, we can use the word cheating, but I mean, there are 80 words for snow if you're from a certain part of the world. Like there are like Lance Armstrong is a cheat in the truest sense, whereas this is somewhere more in the vicinity of gamesmanship, maybe a bit more serious than gamesmanship. It's a bending of the rules. We could use a different phrase for it. I don't. Cheat is too blanket, surely, to say that Ceballos and Lance Armstrong are both cheats.
Well, I'll tell you what I put. I've got a very direct line. It's a really straight line. If someone nudges into you and you fall over, it's kind of. I don't like it, and it's cheating's hard for that, right? If you're making the most of a contact, that's hard to say the word cheating. It's harsh. It's not right. It's not the use of it. It's not the correct use of it. It's manipulating the rules and it's games. It's all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
When you dive and there's no one near you and you scream, and you try to feign injury, that is quite clearly cheating. That's a different thing again. Now, it just happens to be where I draw my line, and I've often said to people, well, hey, Mr. You're earnest here. Did I never do anything wrong? Well, I never dived, but I would have round a player, then ran in front of him and taken the hit. I'd do that. And people would go, yeah, there's that moral high ground you were standing on, just disappeared from under your feet. And yes, you manipulate or use the rules in your way, and everyone does in most sports. But I think there are lines when it's just clear. No, that didn't happen, and you're at it. And I think that line has been crossed too often now, and particularly with the screaming thing, because there's a danger in that as well. And the danger is, the other bugbear is people who pretend to be having a head knock and going down, and the ball has to get kicked out when they didn't get a head knock. Now, I think that should be a 3-game ban there and then, because we're trying to make sure that head knocks are taken seriously. And if you start feigning that, we're in dangerous territory. That's not just cheating, that's dangerous to people's health for the future. Because if referees start ignoring that, thinking people are feigning it, somebody could die one day with that. So that's non-negotiable for me, that one. But that's just what I kind of stand on. I just think it's slipped so far, and this season, I've maybe noticed it a bit more. You see it all the time. But with those empty stadiums, when you're in there, your heads and your hands and you're going, oh, for goodness sake.
No, it is off. It should be more off-putting to all of us, but I think there is out there a general shrug of the shoulders. This is the culture of the game. I mean, bad news for you. I don't suspect it's going to improve or change anytime soon.
Do you know, there's a bit of me, if I was going to give an excuse to particularly the Premier League, where it's beginning to get a little bit worse. Now, the worst league I know for it, having watched different leagues around Europe, was the Portuguese league, and Spanish wasn't too far behind it. And it was just accepted the referees, anytime anyone went down, they give a foul. If someone went down, give a foul. And it killed a lot of games. And if you get the odd referee who didn't do it, the players went, oh, he's not one of them referees, we'll just go and play a game of football now. But the culture, they all had their different cultures. The problem is, if you do, say, in the Premier League, you come in and you're hard on it and you stop it and you get it out. And then those teams go and play in Europe and the rules are different. You're stuffed. And I get that argument, and I absolutely get that argument, and I haven't got a great answer to that one, to go through the whole of Europe and change everything, single culture, and then change culture in world football. That's really, really tough, because in some cultures it's just totally endemic.
On the Arsenal team, the news from the club today, the 55 redundancies, has been generally greeted with, I would say, disgust, actually. I think people have taken a really dim view of this, and you're a good man to talk to, given that you've been on all sides of the game. You know, you've been a chairman, you understand the administrative side of the game, you've been a player. So people haven't seen the news. Arsenal announced 55 redundancies, including their head of recruitment, who's been there 24 years and by all accounts had sourced them numerous players who went on to do very good things in the first team. Their head of UK recruitment, Brian McDermott, the former Reading Leeds manager, was involved as well in their scouting department, and I guess 52, 51 other people all cut. And yet at the same time their wage bill for the players is about 230 odd million. There is a sense Stan Kroenke has billions, 8 of them in fact, to his name. And if you even turn around to these 55 staff and say, these are tough times, we're going to pay you 40 grand a year just to get through it together, that amounts to about 2 million. And that is difficult for everybody, I think, to square in our heads when you look at the obscene amounts being paid to players. And I get, you know, people earn different amounts of money, they have different skill sets. I understand why Mesut Ozil earns more in the world than I do. You know, I get that. But your reaction to this?
First of all, I would take the normal reaction everyone takes just now. Is horrified that you had that amount of people, 55. Now, if you're overstaffed in some areas and there are tight times, you might have to shave off a little bit. That happens. That's business. That happens.
Sure.
55, that's a lot in a football club. That's a big number in a football club. That's not shaving a little bit off the edge. That's not even what people do when they use a crisis to get rid of a lot of people they wanted to get rid of, which can happen, particularly if you've got a newish manager in and he could do getting rid of 5 or 6 or 7 people, and then you hide them within a group of 8 or 9 or 10 and make the excuse that it's, you know, cost cutting, you know, just to make sure that you're a leaner organisation. But it doesn't sound like that. That would be an excuse, or they would argue a reason, but it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like bigger than that. It sounds like, you know, it sounds like making an excuse in the biggest sense, not just to, you know, help Mikel get his people in or move monies into different areas. It's just an excuse to drag it down. Now, if you look around just now, how many other organisations are doing the same? There's a lot of organisations who are having to cost cut and are having to decrease their budgets on, you know, the staff. There's a hell of a lot out there, and I'm got my union hat on again. They're thinking, yes, we've been wanting to do this for a while, and they're using the situation to get rid of a lot of people they'd love to get rid of, or maybe get rid of them knowing that they'll get the same level of people in on a different market now that'll be much, much cheaper. And it's grotesque. It is grotesque if the company is well off enough, if it's got enough finances, if the ownership has got that, and especially in a pandemic when everyone's trying to work together. It sounds horrible. To be absolutely convinced about it and sure about it, I'd need to have to be honest with you and go through every single individual and find out, right, okay, why are you doing this to this individual?
Yeah.
And you kind of need to do that, because I've had to do it myself. There was a period I had to get rid of a number of people at a football club, but I was absolutely open and told exactly everybody why it was happening. And she said, do you want to see the accounts? Here they are. And this is why it's happening. It doesn't sound really like that at Arsenal. And of course, remember, they would argue with you they're not getting European football next year. That's going to have an effect as well. Nothing like the effect the costs of the COVID is going to cost them as well. But they've got to an FA Cup final. And in the end, see, when it comes to it, would you not just go to the players and say, could you not put it together and just, between the lot of you, for another season until we go over this, deal with it and take a little haircut yourselves? Sorry, that's not aimed at David Luiz, but just take a little haircut in your pay, you know.
Yes.
And then everyone as a group would work together and feel like a group. The players everybody who was on the staff, everyone who was saved in the staff by the skin of their teeth, they'd all work together. It could probably bring the club closer together. But Arsenal may be one of the first. If it's lower league teams that are doing it, you kind of get it. It's horrifying, but you kind of get it. It's going to have to happen. But I think I find it hard to accept and understand that if Arsenal have to cut back, is that really the areas you should be doing it? Maybe playing staff should take a little bit of a haircut.
Yeah, I would think so. The Guardian made the point that there is a perception that the hierarchy at the club are choosing more of an agent-led approach to signing players, and they have done that over the past 18 months. Kia Joorabchian has a big influence at the club, and maybe the scouting department has been pared back. It's obsolete when you now just put criteria into a search engine and it brings up the list of players that you might be interested in. But still, it's not all scouting staff. 55 staff is a lot. So that's Arsenal. And I think they do have Europa League football next year now, don't they, on account of the FA Cup?
Yeah, the Champions the money in Champions League
is bigger.
To Europe. They won Champions League, that's what it was. In a way, Europa, I don't know how much really in comparison. It's not even comparable in any way whatsoever. Yeah. And the costs of it, and I don't mean just the costs of getting there, and it's the cost of your playing staff and the fact that you usually have to increase the playing staff to some degree because you get that many more games, and you're going to get more injuries, etc. So there's a kind of false cost when you look at Europa League sometimes that, I'm getting that money in. Hey, yeah, but you need a bigger squad, so it's going to cost you more. I get that, I understand that. Whereas with Champions League, no, it's not like that. You get a hell of a lot of money.
On a lighter note, they obviously did win the FA Cup. You were covering the game. Even you would have appreciated there was something joyous about Aubameyang's finish for the second goal. I don't know if you can learn to finish like that ever and be that calm and collected and find that kind of technique. I mean, you suspect a lesser player would have just thrown a left-footed at it as quick as he could have.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, the different ones. You come back a million years and the players that used to say, I mean, the first I can ever remember talking about it was Jimmy Greaves. Just pass it into the net. Just pass it. We can all pass it. And I can pass it 20 yards and I can put it on a sixpence. Well, see, when you get a goal in front of you, just pass it. You can put it exactly how you want to do it, whereas if you blast it, it's kind of hit and hope. But there's so few in reality that do it like that, because to calm yourself at the most extreme moment of the game is actually difficult, and that's why these guys get the big money. And even some of the best strikers aren't that great at that, but he has got it. It was actually a wee moment. Similarly, Pulisic, when he was through for his goal, really calmed down when he got there. It was a real lovely moment. Aubameyang was the better and the cooler of them, but that's a real finisher, a natural finisher. It was really good to see. It was lovely to see, and they must have loved it generally, because their tactic for about 3 minutes in, and I don't know about you, I was watching, I was talking over it, and it was about 5, 6, 7 minutes in, and I'm going, well, I know what Arsenal are trying to do, and it's over the head of, Azpilicueta, right centre back. What are you going to do? Chelsea done nothing.
No. And sorry to interrupt, you can continue that point, but on the BBC they went to Dan Walker at half-time. Sorry, I didn't get your feed from Greece. I mean, if I could have, I would have. I would have. But so Dan Walker at half-time was saying that every time the ball was anyway around the Arsenal left-hand side, he was screaming at Maitland-Niles, I think it was, to run, as in run in behind. So all Arteta was screaming for much of the game was at Maitland-Niles, who then just started sprinting in behind Azpilicueta. So, I mean, even if the Chelsea bench were unaware, I mean, the Arsenal bench couldn't have made it any clearer to them.
Yeah, and it was such an obvious technical point. Long before, penalty kicks and injuries to Azpilicueta and all that sort of stuff, long before it, you're thinking, right, that we can see that now, right? Like, we know the obvious thing to do is the obvious thing. Well, the obvious thing clearly is you get the other the central centre back to drop behind the right centre back.
Yeah.
Which you should be anyway, because that's what you do, you cover. But Chelsea's other centre back was in front of him. And you go, what? It's the worst. It's just incomprehensible that you would do it and then do it again and then again and then again. There was one moment, I was listening to a few people talking, and Zuma went in the middle of the park, went in a mazy dribble. And they're going, oh, that's great. And I'm going, what? should be back there behind Azpilicueta.
Yeah.
Because it was so obvious. I was really surprised that it took Chelsea so long to figure that out. And by that time, they were losing players, losing goals, losing penalties, and it was a nightmare for them. But, it's early days for them. And well done, Arteta. He's clever enough to see it. And they went for 3-4-3. They seemed to be more comfortable with it. But with the pace they had, they just found who's the slowest player in the back three. Right, just put it over his head. It's kind of basic stuff, like.
Yeah. When you spell it out like that.
I'm saying it after 6 minutes, and I'm going, well, come on. I mean, I'm not a coach, and I can see it. Like, anyway, so it was weird to watch, and and I kind of, Lampard's thinking was probably, well, we'll just take them on man for man, and we'll be better than them. But you can be as good as you like, but see if somebody's hell of a faster than you, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your catch them. So, but it was interesting to see that. So they deserved it for that. And they looked really dangerous, the front three. They were really fast, really sharp, looked as if they had goals in them. And then if you sit back and think about it, Arsenal have got that really good front line, and Chelsea have struggled at the back this season. Maybe that was what was always going to happen in that situation.
Colin has texted in, lads, can we start the campaign properly here and now to install Pat Nevin as the great overseer of the beautiful game? As ever, common sense, logic and reason. It also helps himself being a former Everton player and a great advocate of all things Cocteau twins. Cheers,
Yes.
Cocteau twins. I'll be honest, my knowledge of Scottish rock is average.
I don't know if they take rock for that, but yeah.
Scottish music. The Proclaimers? The Proclaimers, anyone? Sorry, there was a point there I wanted to ask you about. Yes. Did you, as a very technical player and obviously, winger and dribbling past people and in one-on-one situations, did you ever get to a point in front of goal where at the most extreme moments you could slow down your heart rate and you could stay deadly and cool and calm?
Sadly, because I'd never played in the wing before I went to Chelsea, I was a centre forward. And that was my stock and trade. That's what I did. Okay. I was just calm in front of goal, but I happened to be 5'6", not 6'6", so I was shoved out in the wing. But I was very, very, it was one of the things that I just felt much, much more comfortable than most people. One-on-one with a goalkeeper, I can't really remember missing many in my career. Right. But that's the positive side. The negative side, I wasn't that lightning quick to get one-on-one with a goalkeeper often enough. So, there's upsides and downsides to that. But I couldn't understand with players, and I've always found it difficult to understand why don't you just slow down, you're away. If they get back to you, they're probably going to foul you if you get between you and the ball. They have to come through you. So be calm, and you're in control of the situation. It's you to get in control. And it always surprised me, the ones that, even sort of decent-ish players, but the very best ones, and the ones we talk about, the centre forwards, natural finishers, they just live in that area, they live in that space. And the ones that when they're through with that opportunity, you almost start looking away because he's going to score. Yeah.
Well, you use the word control there, and isn't that the point? Sometimes when certain forwards are in one-on-one, they're in control of the dynamics, and other times the goalkeeper is in control of the dynamics, and we can all see it, we can all sense it. And the point about slowing down is very interesting. I remember we were talking about Raheem Sterling and his crossing and everything a couple of years ago, and you said he just needs to slow down. He's that fast. As he's coming to the ball, he needs to just take a beat and slow down, and he's so fast, maybe he's not used to it. And so you've used that same parallel with finishing. Slow down that beat.
It's like you should know where everything is. You should have the vision. You've had the looks. You've calculated how far they can get, how close they are. You should kind of know all that. So when you get there, you think, well, it's okay, I've got the time to do this now. I can manipulate the situation. It's kind of a logical thing. You can work it out. The very, very blessed players like the Messis, they do that all the time. Every moment of the game, they are doing that, and they are at one with that situation. And when you see players like that, and your David Silvers, and they are in that, you call it zone or bubble, whatever, they're there all the time. Some of us mere mortals get there now and again, and you feel comfortable there. And it's when you get, I used to try and work out when I get one-on-one with goalkeepers, and I used to always figure out, can I go to his right, his left? If I get it past him, the worst I'm going to get is a penalty, because I'll get the ball past him. That's all I need to do. I don't need to get past him, because he's not going to be able to turn and chase me. So I know that's one I need to do. If he's got all the angles covered, I'm just going to scoop you. Now, if you know how to do the scoop, then it's kind of unstoppable as well. So he's logically worked out all the possibilities. And then it's all down to one thing. Have you got the skill to do that? And you need to have the belief in the skill in yourself to be able to do that. And we know who the top guys are that have done it all the time and done it hundreds and hundreds of times. And they're a joy to watch. And that's the guys who, when I talk about football, who I like to watch, that's the guys we go on about, who always know that. And they aren't always strikers. There's sometimes midfielders. De Bruyne always knows how much exact time it is, how when the tackle's going to come. He will wait until, the split second to know that, okay, there's only a quarter of a second till that tackle comes in. But I know that, and I know that I have to wait until that happens for the space to open up. And we've all played football, most of us, and we know we've done that now and again, but they do it all the time. And the strikers, they're the same.
And against very intelligent players. Yes, sorry, go on.
Tell you one player I played, but I'm not going to tell you his name, it's harsh, right? We used to get one-on-ones all the time, and we used to hope we'd get a corner out of it. Because that's the best you get, right? But the thing is, he was dead fast, and you would stretch the defences and make loads of space for the rest of it. So he kept on getting a game, this guy. Okay. And I loved him. And one of my favourite players to play with, but 1-on-1, we might get a corner out of this. It's terrible. But, you need all sides. But when you get, the very, very good strikers, it's a lovely thing to watch. And as you say, Aubameyang, he's kind of had it forever. When you watched him back over in Germany and that, he's just always had it. It's total natural. Yes,
okay. We're completely out of time. The point of this conversation, by the way, believe it or not, had been to preview the Champions League, so that's not going to happen. And we will talk to you on Monday. And I got to say this, for me, who has to work weekday evenings, the fact that they've moved all these games to Fridays and Saturdays is just a joy. So we've City, Real Madrid, we've Juventus, Lyon, Chelsea 3-0 down against Bayern, and we've Barcelona, Napoli, which is 1-1. Juve are 1-0 down to Lyon, and Manchester City are 2-1 up against Madrid. That's very tasty. That is a nice lineup for the weekend. So I guess we'll talk Monday. You can give me your 4 teams going through.
It won't be Chelsea.
Yeah, I figured that.
We'll make it as well. I'm comfortable with that. But it's interesting times. I'm really hopeful Man City go all the way in this one. Look, if they had the right stride in the right times, the right moments, I'm still hopeful they can do it. They've got the quality to do it. So I'm sticking with Man City all the way. Okay. We had Damien Delaney on who tipped Juve. Bayern Munich are playing brilliant football as well. And Barca Napoli, I don't think Barcelona are quite where it's at this year, but it's pretty open this year. Let's talk Monday and we can look back at it all. Thanks a million, Pat Nevin. See you later.
Cheers.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark.
As Liverpool come out, they know that the light is beckoning at the end of the tunnel. Such agony here 11 months ago when Arsenal took the title from them with virtually the last kick of that season. Lesser clubs than Liverpool would have taken years to recover from that, but here failure only stimulates more urgent searches for success. Kenny Dalglish's third championship in only 5 years as manager. For the 18th time, Liverpool are the champions.
At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky with the sweet silver song of the lark.
For me, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and gave me this opportunity to try to help in a situation that's not so difficult like all the people in this room feel. I think it's not the perfect moment, of course, but I feel it's a good moment to come here, and so I feel really proud.
A couple of people who can tell you, yeah, but you didn't win. So now, let's talk about 6, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about 6.
First and foremost, I have to say congratulations to City. I said it a couple of times, but I don't want that any broadcaster miss that, because that's important. They played an incredible season. We did as well, but you won it, and that's congratulations.
to Pep and all the people from Manchester City.
Liverpool had the greatest season in their entire life, and they still came second. It's too funny.
To Sadio Mane, who makes it 3-0. What a ball from Jordan Henderson in behind the Manchester City defence, and a diving header from Sadio Mane surely seals all 3 points, and a huge victory for Liverpool. It's Liverpool 3, Manchester City 0. Sadio Mane. Oh, Salah to settle for Liverpool. Salah scores in front of the cup, and Liverpool are going 16 points clear at the top of the Premier League table. And Alisson runs the length of the pitch to celebrate. It's 2-0 at Anfield, and it's never heard noise like it. Mo Salah wins the game for Liverpool.
Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and torn. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. As potent as Rashford and Fernandes. Post-lockdown. Gamble responsibly. CWE.net.
As the new government commits to abolishing direct provision, News Talk examines the much-debated system.
I never really thought this would hit me so hard.
I had to pack my life into 2 suitcases.
Living in a room with family of 6 is not easy.
Ahead of an independent report into the scheme, we bring you into the system. Hear from those living in accommodation centres, ask what might replace it, and find best international practice. The truth about direct provision. This summer on News Talk.
The famous Holland & Barrett 1 cent sale is back, with buy one, get one for just 1 cent on hundreds of everyday favourites. And you can even mix and match. Shop the 1 cent sale now in store and at hollandandbarrett.ie. Ends 25th of the 8th, 2020. Selected items, cheapest item 1 cent, subject to availability.
When it comes to your mortgage journey, we believe in permanent support. That's why we're now cutting our rates for both new and existing customers, meaning you'll benefit from lower repayments every month and see real savings on your mortgage. Talk to us today or visit permanenttsb.ie. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Rates available to new and existing home mortgage customers only. Product eligibility criteria applies. Maximum loan to value is 90%. Security and insurance is required. Warning, if you do not keep up your repayments, you may lose your home. Warning, if you do not meet the repayments on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future. Permanent TSB PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Your first tee shot on the famous stadium course at PGA Catalunya Resort. There's nothing quite like it. Except maybe the stunning views of the Pyrenees on the signature 13th. But then, PGA Catalunya Resort is full of surprises. Stay at the luxury 5-star Hotel Camarel and enjoy 2 championship courses, a state-of-the-art golf hub, and Europe's largest short game practice area. Plus, Sergio Garcia's Junior Golf Academy. Whether you're planning a golf trip with friends or a relaxing break, discover great offers at PGA Catalunya Resort, the #1 golf resort in Spain.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. We love the beautiful game more than Olivier Giroud loves the near post. Gamble responsibly. CWE.net.
They're into the final 10 minutes at Old Trafford. They did go 1-0 down, Manchester United, on 55 minutes. Jesse Lingard, though, equalised on 57 minutes, meaning it is 6-1 to Manchester United on aggregate. Meanwhile, Inter against Getafe, this is a stand-alone, one-legged affair, are 1-0 up, courtesy of Lukaku. Let's go to Stephen Doyle, who's standing by. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Joe.
We had a press conference this afternoon. Gary Owens and Niall Quinn were speaking to the media. You were in attendance, I presume virtually as opposed to in person, or in person?
We were in person, Joe, but obviously all the guidelines being adhered to, the strict guidelines. So we were all 2 meters apart and wearing our masks as well. And yeah, it was all very well organised by the FAI. We all had to fill out forms and that kind of stuff before we attended. So, you know, there was a limited number of people there. And as well, they put us into cycles. It was TV and radio, then the dailies, and then the Sunday. So it was all very well run, you'd have to say, by the FAI.
There's a lot going on at the moment in the world of the FAI. In broad terms, Gary Owens and Niall Quinn and members of the visionary group have come in effect, and are trying to piece things back together. And on the outside, it seemed like they were doing a very good job and everybody was pretty happy, and they handled the Stephen Kenny, Mick McCarthy situation quite well. They've sorted out the finances or restructured the debt, certainly in so much as they feel they can, and they've tried to be open and transparent. Although people aren't happy. Mark McSharry, the Fianna Fáil TV, wrote a piece saying he's not best pleased with what he feels is a lack of transparency about appointments and other issues. And then there is unhappiness with the split on the board, a 6-6 split, 6 members of the quote-unquote football family and 6 independent directors, in effect, part of the agreement with Shane Ross made last year. So that is where we are in broad terms. Was the press conference today, Steo, in aid of trying to smooth things over? Where are we headed? There's the FAI council have a say in all this, and they have a meeting.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, Joe? Because when things seem to be going so well on the football front, where you mentioned about the senior manager Stephen Kenny coming in, there's so much hope there with so many young players. Under 21 team going well, the women's team are going well in their qualification group. Even the League of Ireland football has been fantastic over the last couple of seasons. But we've got all this stuff going on in the background with regard to the FAI and the new reforms that they want to bring in with regard to governance of the association. So, Joe, this really is it's a make or break month for Irish football. This on Friday, Roy Barrett, who is the FAI chairperson, will meet with the FAI council, and basically that will be his chance to, I suppose, answer questions on the series of reforms that have been put into this memorandum of understanding. That was the agreement between the government and the FAI with regard to how the funding would be brought back to the FAI, government funding, and also the state bailout of €18 million. So Gary Owens was there today, the interim CEO, alongside Niall Quinn, the deputy interim CEO, and they were basically, I suppose, just outlining what will happen on Friday and at the EGM that's going to take place on August 31st. Because after Friday's meeting, where the council members can question Roy Barrett, get some more clarity on some of the issues, on the 31st of August at the EGM, they will then take a vote on these reforms. They then need 2/3 of a majority to vote in favour of the reforms to put them through. And that, of course, then would see the funding from the government triggered, Sport Ireland, I should say. It's almost 6 million from Sport Ireland, as well as the 18 million bailout. And also there's a Bank of Ireland loan, depending on all these reforms being put through. So, as you alluded to there, Joe, there's some contentious issues. I suppose one of the big bones of contention would be the fact that the 10-year rule on members of the council, that after 10 years they would have to step down. And there seems to be a bit of flexibility on that, which Quinn and Owens revealed today. There are going to be some, I should say, an electoral code put in place for anybody who wants to sit on a board or a committee within the FAI. There's 3 aspects that are 3 criteria that you'll have to meet, and that there will be no conflict of interests, that there will be an appropriate skill set there from the member, and also that they pass a fit and proper person test. It seems that they will apply that to anybody who wants to go beyond the 10 years sitting on the FAI board. The other issue then, as you alluded to, Joe, is the makeup of the board, which, as we know, was previously 8 people from the football constituencies and then 4 independent people. That is going to change. As you mentioned, it will be increased to 6 independent people alongside 6 people from football constituencies. Now, it was put to Gary Owens today that this is unheard of in Irish sport. There's never been a 50-50 split, and that so many independent people could have a say in the direction that the sport will go. And he then, I suppose, replied by saying that no other sporting body has ended up in so much debt as the FAI are in now. And he continued with this answer we're going to hear next.
To be fair, we borrowed 52.5 million. We needed the money. We were bust, really, and we need that money to be able to go forward. We need the confidence of the key stakeholders. We need to build trust. We need to build back our reputation. It was seriously damaged, both publicly it's been seriously damaged and with our key stakeholders. And we need to prove to everybody that we can put in the proper governance reforms and that we're serious about it and that we'll deliver on it. And at the same time, we need to respect I suppose we need to respect the AGM and what it actually stands for, and that we're not taking away ultimate control from the people who actually run football, and that's actually what we're doing.
Okay, so he raised the issue of control there, Steve, and that's kind of what this is all about, and you've explained the general situation perfectly there. So FAI Council on Friday will meet with Roy Barrett. They are going to fire him with all sorts of questions. They're going to explain all their problems, and he's hopefully going to persuade them that this is the only route possible and that things are being done the right way. And come EGM on August 31st, the 2/3 majority will be secured, which will release the funding and the bank loan, and the finances will be put into some kind of working order again. So we heard there Gary Owens talking about control, and that feeds into, to put it in blunt terms, not even reading between the lines, members of the FAI Council and beyond are saying what's gone on here at the FAI with Gary Owens and Roy Barrett and Niall Quinn, these are all of this visionary group. This is like a hostile takeover. These lads have all come in, they've been appointed. Mark Mashari talking about no transparency in the Sunday Independent a while back. He had a column saying, how have all these appointments happened? So the accusation, effectively, as I understand it, is that there's no transparency over these appointments and this is some kind of takeover.
Yeah, and look, Mick Wallace and some other council members have voiced their concerns. Mick Wallace, of course, who was a member of the council, he wrote to the FIFA president, he wrote to the UEFA president, voicing his concerns as to what you say there, Joe, is a kind of a takeover by private hands. Now, FIFA and UEFA, of course, wrote to the FAI, which we found out last night. That letter was revealed. They have given their support to the FAI. They mentioned in that letter that the FAI is at a financial crossroads. They also reminded people that UEFA would be guarantor on this Bank of Ireland loan to the FAI. So their full support is there. That was, I suppose, a reply to Mick Wallace's concerns that he voiced. And Niall Quinn then interjected with all this discussion of, the six independents and the six, the six football family people on the board.
Yeah.
And he was, I suppose he wanted to highlight the fact that it isn't 6 versus 6. He wants to, I suppose, display a kind of a unity amongst the board. And this is what Niall was talking about here.
And the time has come for people to look at the unifying value of understanding what's best for the association right now. If it needs changing in the future, it does. And the hysteria that has been out there on this 6v6 has taken away from what's at the very heart of it. The heart of it is that the football game can benefit from the corporate world and from indeed with themselves. There is nothing wrong in those 6 independents, in the mix of those 6 independents, with having a couple of really experienced football people as part of the 6 independents.
Yeah. I mean, look, that makes sense to me. The 6 independents have been talked about as if they're coming in to destroy the game or something.
Yeah, look, I can see, I can see from both points of view, Joe, because I suppose the concern is that the people on the board, maybe, as it was mentioned in that press conference, or it was mentioned, I think, by Brian Carey even in recent days, we might come to Brian in a moment, but the fact that, somebody who's an independent member of that board might have gone to a match or two, but that they don't understand Irish football enough to be able to give, or to be able to know how to use that experience that they have in other fields and to apply it to what they might be doing within the FAI. Gary Owens also spoke about how potential sponsors, when he speaks of potential sponsors, and that's going to be a crucial thing as well, Joe, because as we know, the shirt sponsor is gone. The FAI need to, that's going to be a huge thing over the next month or two. He's talked about how sponsors always ask him first about the governance of the association and are the right things in place, is everything being done properly with regard to finances, that kind of thing. And he also mentions about the value of football and that we don't get, for the amount of people that play the game in the country, that we don't get value out of that regard to sponsorship and also funding from different areas. And I suppose some people might look at it as a bit of scaremongering, but in the next clip you're going to hear, Joe, he outlines what could go wrong or the dangers of what might happen if the council don't vote for these reforms.
I do accept that we have to put right, though, some of the misunderstandings that are out there. So this thing about sovereignty and who actually runs the association, and that we're now taking it over by stealth, is completely misleading. this whole thing about the casting vote is completely misleading, and the role that we would have had in relation to what our agenda was is completely misleading. We basically have a council or an AGM who will control the association, and ultimately it's up to them to make the decisions. But you do have people like the Bank of Ireland and others who are prepared to give us a significant amount of funding to help us survive and thrive, and it's critical that we get that, because if we don't, third parties will take over the association, and the alternatives are not pretty.
Okay, so they're making stark warnings today. Where do you want to bring us next, Theo?
Well, just to finish, because I know, as I mentioned, Brian Kerr earlier, he's been speaking about this in the last day or two, and he spoke about the appointments that were made in recent weeks by the FAI, and there was 4 key roles that were appointed over those last number of weeks. Rhea Walsh, we know, is given the job of Chief Operations Officer. Mark Russell has been moved to the post of Commercial Director, or from Commercial Director to that of Commercial Marketing. Also, Mark Scanlon has been appointed new League of Ireland Director, and Ger McDermott now Head of Grassroots. They were all people that were working within the FAI and given these new roles. And Brian Kerr, I suppose, was a little bit concerned that these roles, which were really key roles, weren't advertised externally. And I did also mention the fact that Rhea Walsh, you know, she's been connected with the old regime, Joe. We found out recently that she did some private work for John Delaney as well. And I just said to Gary about the optics of that. Now, he didn't really address that particular point, but in the next time you'll just hear what he says about those appointments.
We brought in 2 external groups to actually help us with that. Yvonne Clancy, who was an external strategic consultant, and then we brought in Archers Perstein, who were doing the CEO process as well, to review some of the capabilities and the competencies that we had. And broadly speaking, 3 or 4 people came up through the system and that were exceptional in terms of the assessment that we would have had, and there was an independent assessment there. We wanted to give a message in that part of the association that if the talent was in here, we were going to promote from within, because there was a pretty poor culture here and a serious lack of confidence in the team that was in place. And we felt it was important, if the talent was there, which was independently assessed, that we would actually promote them.
Okay, so we're saying it was independently assessed, and I'm sure there was talent within the ranks that suffered on account of the previous regime, and you know, you can see there's a certain logic in the point he's making. I know, so like, I'm sure they're not loving the fact this has been almost turned to some kind of power grab on their part. As I understand it, Theo, I know we don't have audio, but Owens and Quinn were asked about their future with the FAI towards the end.
Yeah, well, I said to Noel, because it had been suggested that he might take another role within the association, because he did say today that, look, he's gone beyond his 6-month contract, which was initially put in place. Himself and Gary were both put on 6-month contracts. They've gone past that now, but they've been asked just to stay on while all of this stuff is happening this month. And with regards to whether they stay within the association, they left it very open. So It is possible that Niall and Gary could take on new roles within the FAI. They're definitely open to it.
Right, okay. Well, as you said, a make or break month. Roy Barrett with the FAI Council on Friday, and then the EGM where they need a 2/3 majority on August 31st. And if that is rejected or they don't hit the 2/3 majority, then the fun and games really begin. Stephen Doyle, thanks so much.
Thanks, Joe.
Much appreciated. We'll take a short break.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. As potent as Rashford and Fernandes. Post-lockdown. Gamble responsibly. CWE.net.
Need to travel for work? Fed up with the 4 walls at home and dreaming of a breakaway in Dublin? Relax and stay safe in the Red Cow Moran Hotel, just off the M50 and N7. As one of the city's most spacious hotels, you can social distance comfortably without compromising your enjoyment. For flexible booking options, see redcowmoranhotel.com.
Vision Express stores are open again for all your eye care needs. So you can now book an eye test. And while we look after your eyes, we're looking out for your safety too, by following social distancing measures and using personal protective equipment. Find your nearest store and book online. We're open for you.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. We love the beautiful game more than Olivier Giroud loves the near post. Gamble responsibly. CWE.net.
Full times in the Europa League. Martial scored a winner for Manchester United towards the end after Lingard's equaliser. So 2-1 on the night to United, 7-1 on aggregate. They progressed through to the quarter-finals. And Inter have beaten Getafe 2-0 in the end. Eriksen with their second after Lukaku scored their first. That is us done for the evening. OTBAM is back tomorrow, 7:30 as usual. We'll be chatting USPGA. They'll be chatting USPGA. I'll be chatting it with them. It's very confusing. But OTBAM, 7:30 from tomorrow. And then we're back at 7 tomorrow evening. John Giles and Dublin footballer David Byrne on the show as well. Tom Dunn is on the way next.